Welcome to Mac and Bleu, where we introduce you to who is building Arizona, bringing you the people and businesses that shape the landscape around us. From economic development and developers, underwriters and lenders, architects and engineers, to the very builders and suppliers that bring it all together. For all things Mac and Bleu, head to www.macandbleu.com and don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Now let's join our host, JJ Levinsky.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Mac and Bleu. I'm your host, JJ Levinsky, CEO and co-founder of Blue Wave General Contracting. Today I've got Rami Kalla on. He's the CEO and founder of Point in Time Studios. Did I get that right? Okay. So the reason I met Rami, I don't know, maybe in the last year, and plus he's all over everything in social media storms. He's kind of the king of virtual reality, augmented reality, and video production in the Valley here, and has a strong tie to commercial real estate in our AEC space. So hopefully I did a good job of doing your intro there. And for those of you that think he works hard, you can see that he's in his plush cabin somewhere relaxing for the week. So it's all good. Look at he's even got the proper logo shirt on today. So hey, welcome, Rami. We're doing virtual today.
Thank you, JJ, for having me.
Yeah, we're doing virtual today so we can honor his right to have somewhat of a vacation. Rami, before we get into like all the cool things you do, we always like to soften the blow and kind of let everyone know a little bit about you. So can you give your resume without making it 4 hours long, like just kind of background in Arizona, a little bit of schooling, and then if you, because of your kind of unique background, talk a little bit about kind of how you got into all the video related stuff before we get into all the kind of cool things. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm an Arizona native, grew up in Tempe, went over to ASU. So I'm a Sun Devil, go Devils. And really my story started back when I was about 10. My dad bought one of those big video cameras. Remember back in the day, you had to have the VCR with you to play the VHS and to record to it. And I just fell in love with it. I took it, got the manual, started making short films with friends and family, writing scripts. And I was known around the neighborhood as the film kid. So I was always producing content, just loved it. Fast forward a few years, went to college at ASU, studied business and Spanish, and got to live abroad in Spain. Came back and got a job at General Mills, great job in marketing. Got to work with big brands like Big G cereal and Yoplait yogurt. Traveled a lot, and just really about 3.5 years into that, I just felt disenchanted. I'm like, this is not what I'm meant to be doing. I, in the meantime, been making films and still producing creative stuff, and went out on my own. It's about 21 years ago now, and since then we're doing small commercials and productions, and since then we got to work with big brands like McDonald's, PetSmart, Coke, Axon, Gila River Resorts, casinos. So really grown from video to then got into 3D animation and then VR and AR. So it's been quite a journey. So a lot of fun.
What about family, kids, anything fun in that realm?
Yeah. So I have a beautiful wife, Lauren, and I've got 4 boys. Noah, who's 25. Jaden is 20. My son Wyatt is 17. And then I've got a little one, Austin, who's 4. So
you're
keeps us busy.
You are a busy man. So the, full disclosure, I met Rami through Mark Taylor with Extreme Aerial. I think he's the one that introduced us because we had some crazy ideas that we were kind of trying to go, just kind of explore some market opportunities in the AEC space. And for those of you that know me, I'm not a conventional thinker, and I don't think Rami is either. So Mark had introduced us, and he's been a guest on before, and he does a lot with our friends over at Geoholics as well on their podcast. And so once I saw what Rami was doing, I was like, hey, come on our podcast and let's expose kind of what you're doing to our constituents in the AEC space, because I think there's some things that you could share, Rami, that where technology is taking what you're doing, where that can leverage and help a lot of our patrons that listen and watch this podcast. So with that, can you kind of dive into the transformation, go back to where you gave us that time frame of when you went from film into 3D into VR and AR. Give give some testimonials and stories about kind of how all that works and
Yeah.
what's the transformation like.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we all know that, video tours are around for a long time, right? When YouTube came out, it was very easy to stream video content and show a tour of a property. And, we were doing that early on. Renderings, have been around for a bit. We all have seen quality from, 10 years ago to today, 3D renderings, as we got into those, really, I saw an opportunity to make them better. And how do we make them more realistic and really create that visual, that vision of what the property is going to look like? And then about 7-8 years ago, I was actually buying a new home and I was building it. And they were saying to me, imagine this flooring with those countertops and those cabinets. They just give you that little square piece and you have to imagine your head. And I was like, I'm a visual person. I'm like, why can I make this in VR? I want to walk into my kitchen, right? Design it myself in virtual reality. And so I just had this idea and I took it and built a team around, created a department around VR. And we started really showing it to new home builders. I met with several across the country, and it was a little ahead of its time. So then we pivoted to student and multifamily, and that's really where it took off. And a lot of the younger generation just said, I want VR, and they are engaging it. And now I'm like, man, I can put you in the rendering, right? You can walk around, you can play games, you can open doors, and so you're fully immersed inside the rendering. And so it's always a trip to me when I get to actually visit a property that we've worked on. And I feel like I'm in my rendering again, like I'm in a video game. So it's always it's always crazy, and the technology is just getting better. We're doing a lot of augmented reality right now. We have an experience right now playing at Sky Harbor Airport in Terminal 4 in baggage claim, and if you put your phone over, it's an augmented reality experience to promote the Gila River Resorts Oasis pool parties. But a girl will show up on the baggage claim and float down the conveyor belt like in the lazy river. So we're always looking for ways to bring cutting edge technology and help our clients really cut through the clutter and be on that cutting edge. So.
Okay, Rami, so that was a great summary of kind of how you got started. Can you think of some of those early clients and how did they react and how was it transformational? I mean, I can see it and I'm sure the audience can see it too, but were you kind of who's this crazy guy, or was it instant success for them, or did they have a hard time monetizing it in the beginning?
Yeah, one of the events that really sticks out to me as kind of a turning point for us is we had a developer who had purchased some luxury villas out in Spain, on the southern coast of Spain. And he contacted me and said, I'm really having a hard time selling the vision. I'm going to do a full remodel. He had bought these 500 villas out of bankruptcy, was going to remodel all of them, but he needed to start, selling the units. And so I said, let's make this we'll create renderings, but let's make it into VR. So you can literally go into your new villa, go up the stairs, stand in your jacuzzi, and looking down to the balcony, you see the Mediterranean Sea below you. We built this whole area, the clubhouse, all the amenities, the units, and it's all built to scale. So when you're in there and you're walking around the villa, it's exactly like if you were really there. We can even add the sound effects of the birds in the background and the seagulls. Like it's very visceral. So you're in this experience. We flew out to London to a home show where people were looking to purchase vacation property. So we had this giant booth set up. People could step into our VR experience. Nobody else was doing this at the time. This is about 3-4 years ago. And we had a line of everybody just wanted to experience. All the other vendors were like, what are these guys doing? And what was really cool was that people were literally signing contracts there. They sold over 30 villas in one day, did 10 million in sales, double it the next weekend without anybody ever having to go to Spain. We did it all in London. And then my wife and I got a little belated honeymoon in Scotland afterwards. So I'd say it was a pretty successful trip. So
that's pretty cool. So did that, from that thing in London, did it snowball? I mean, that kind of press had to have gone kind of viral for you guys right at that moment, right?
Yeah, it was huge. Actually, the organizer of the event called me. He's like, what you guys are doing is cutting edge. He's like, how can we get you back out here, to do more experiences and help us, market what we're doing? Because again, we're just, we like to think of ourselves as, we're very innovative. I'm always looking down the pipeline, what's next, and I want to be. There's always a cost, right, to being
right.
An early, visionary. And so as you're learning the technology, but I really think that, I'm looking where playing where the puck is going and seeing kind of where things are happening. And we've been lucky on the VR and AR side because I've been watching, and it's just going to get better. It's, Apple just announced their new headset. The headsets are going to get smaller and smaller. It should look like my glasses. You saw the Vision. It's a little bigger still, but they're getting smaller. more voice activation. Eventually, you're not going to need your phone anymore. So, we're kind of going, how can we develop and continue to develop, different experiences? We're working with Axon, Taser, who wanted to create these immersive experiences for first responders. So we worked with the TSA, we worked with police, we worked with corrections officers, where we shot in a live prison in San Francisco, where you actually go into the prison and you have to guess, like a video game, where the contraband is hidden. And so these experiences are, these really crazy. Think of like a choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
We did domestic violence, where if you pick the right things, a person lives, the wrong things, they die. But we can teach you all these things in immersive VR without hurting anybody. So it's pretty crazy. It's wild.
So, Rami, I have a question, and I'm kind of doing this through the audience's eyes and ears and all the senses that you're going to be achieving. How do you gather the data? In other words, when you create that, for those people that don't understand how the reality is created, consider our space, the architectural engineering construction space. Is it typically done where you go photograph something, or is it done through getting files from an architect engineer, or is it all the above and you integrate it all to create that base file?
Yeah, I'll use ASU as a great example. They came to us when they were building their new Thunderbird campus in downtown Phoenix, and they said, "Hey, we have some architectural drawings, we have some initial renderings. We want to create this full VR experience." So we took all the information they had. They hadn't even broken ground yet, and our designers worked and modeled everything in VR, created the full experience. You could actually walk and stand on, I think it's Polk Street. You can see part of downtown Phoenix that we built out. So there's the Sheraton, there's the Sandra Conner College of Law. You can walk into the building. You hear cars driving by you in VR, and you can go up the stairs. You can be in the very top balcony where the pub is and see the city below you. So we took everything from the architects and then worked with the interior designers in all the pieces from all the FF&E that we needed to create the rest of the piece. But it was a huge experience. They took it to Japan. They took it to New York because they were trying to raise funding for it. So let's say you're a donor and you're going to donate X amount of dollars. You can actually type your name in, and we can put your name in just for you on the door, on the wall, and then we could change it for somebody else. So it made it feel very personalized for your experience. And it was a huge success. They raised tons of money to build the school. And then once it was done, we actually went and scanned it in 360. So now it's built. We brought cameras and scanned it, and we actually have professors in there. You click on them, and they start talking to you in the different rooms. So it's, again, a full, experiential tour as you're getting to see the whole space. And the tour was so successful that we actually we had to move everything over to Amazon servers because we had, I think, it was almost 200,000 people, and almost crashed the site. It was such a huge success because we're tracking those metrics. So it was nuts. Yeah.
That's awesome. What? Oh shoot, I had another question. Then is it all done in the metaverse then, as far as that interactive piece, or how are you parlaying that into either the metaverse or the blockchain on the back end of that stuff?
It's funny that I'd say, these last several months we've been talking about the metaverse, and people are it's such a buzzword, and now people are like, well, we're not calling it the metaverse now. It's it's an immersive experience, or so yeah. I think with everything with going on with crypto, and I don't think it's going to go away. I think terms will come in and out. I mean, at the end of the day, it's an immersive experience. But yeah, we're basically working in what we define, right, as the metaverse is that immersive experience where we're creating stuff in game engines. So,
got it.
Working in Unreal, working in Unity, and then those can be supported. However, we're working right now on a web-based metaverse where people can basically, we'll take your Unreal experience, your architectural building, put it into this web-based version where you can have your avatar, you can create your avatar, you can walk around the space, and you could bring 100 people in there, 200 people to do tours live inside, your immersive metaverse. At the same time, you can still have your live action face like we're doing now on a Zoom call, but you can still have the avatars in there and tour, jump around, fly, whatever you want to do. The challenge has always been, bandwidth. And so the stuff we're working with now, it's able to, really handle much higher quality files at a much higher bandwidth, where before you were having to work in Unity and the quality of the renderings, the environments really looked cartoony. But now we're able to really maintain the integrity of the files. It looks really, really cool. So there's a lot of new stuff.
So, and again, I'm trying to ask all sorts of questions just to think about the usual demographic of who's watching or listening to this. So I'm going to role play here. Let's say I'm working with you, and let's take how about let's take a mid riser or a high rise, class A, class B office space type thing. Let's say I'm
Mhm.
the developer and I've hired you, and you're putting that out there. As I go through that that AR, think like I could look at that wall and I could go, nope, Rami, in that AR experience, I can say, no, I want
Mhm.
to change that wallpaper to brown with zebra stripes. Are you at that level with developers and with those kind of people where you can do that? And then it instantly can translate into almost a SKU or a work order or a purchase order to then take that AR into something tangible. Is that technology there, and can it be monetized in real world time and space right now?
Yeah, I mean, going back to the airport we're doing right now, they gave us little tiny banners on the conveyor belt, and we've got to track a moving object, right, in a small space and do a web-based AR experience. So very, very complicated from an augmented reality experience. So let's go back to real estate, much simpler. If, when we're anchoring to things, let's say the building is built already and you want to be able to look at certain design elements in a room or furniture, we would create those assets and we just anchor to those points. But because things aren't moving around, there's not this crazy spatial issue. That's fairly simple to do. So we can have different menu options. They could see it in that actual space, different wallpaper or whatnot. And then what we're doing at the airport, you can record your experience and share it on social, right? Because we want it to be shared. Same thing, we could do for the developers. If it's not built, we would just need those elevations, top down and side elevations. We'd build it out. And then what I'd recommend is having it in VR where then they could walk into that space that's not built and change the wallpaper, change out the furniture. It's very simple to do. And they could actually see it now in virtual reality. So there's both a VR and AR options. I also love AR for just walk up to the dirt and do you want to see what the building's going to look like, right? You could bring your iPad and see how it's going to look actually before we've broken ground. So there's a ton of options.
Well, we went from like 0 to 800 miles an hour in a matter of
Sorry,
no,
that's
no,
where my brain is.
no, it's good. What I naturally follow you after we got introduced. I see you travel and speak and entertain around the world right now. What are the questions that you get asked most often, in your speaking engagements and in your presentations around the country and the world? Because you're definitely at the forefront of your business, but how do you even keep up with the speed of change?
Yeah, I just did a talk recently in Austin. It was a lot, several hundred marketers were there and talking about really where do I see the technology going, and I think there's fear, right? We talk about AI. There's a lot of excitement. There's fear there as well.
Right.
I think the same thing, with immersive, VR and AR. I mean, people don't understand that hey, there's a progression, and I've been watching a lot of the patents. I saw I knew Apple's Vision was coming out 2 years ago. So I keep track of a lot of these big manufacturers are doing. I spend a lot of time going to trade shows. I was one in San Francisco. I was at CES in Las Vegas. So I'm constantly talking to Samsung and Audi and GE. And what are they doing? Rewind 3-4 years ago, they were developing their own little VR AR departments, and to really keep up. And so I'm having conversations with a lot of these people. But like I was saying, I mean, it really, we saw the vision goggles. They're a little smaller. You can see through. So a lot of the issues with VR right now is, hey, I'm kind of closed off to the rest of the world. So having those front-facing cameras allows me to see what's happening. And, very similar to, Microsoft's HoloLens, that's where I really see vision, competing is you've got the AR and the VR, opportunities, and it's still a little bit less expensive. But we're going to see it smaller. So like my glasses here, they're going to be smaller. They're already trying to get FDA approval on contacts. So if you ever watch Mission Impossible
Yep.
movies with Tom Cruise, like I think it's like the third or fourth one, he's got the contacts on and it's doing the facial recognition. That's already here in China. They're doing facial recognition already, and they can scan. Let's say JJ, you walk out to work and you got a frown on your face, right? Or you're walking different, your gait is different. You could be detained and say, hey, like you're about to commit a crime, or what are you going to do? So they're looking for behavioral changes, and they're already using that in the classrooms in China. The kids have facial scanning and recognition to see how the students are learning, and parents are, a little upset about it because they feel like it's an invasion. But those things are coming, and so you imagine a contact that can scan, seeing everything, collecting information. And then, of course, you go to the neural network that Elon Musk is working on right now, where it connects into your brainstem, where you can download and share information. The idea that you could go into VR, AR instantaneously. And if you ever read the book, The Singularity by Ray Kurzweil, he talked about this 20, 25 years ago, that in year 2045, we were going to have this. So it's all kind of coming to fruition. And you think about technology, it's kind of been like this. It's really now exponential.
Yep.
And it's moving so quickly that, to answer your other question, to keep up, I say a big portion of my time, like I said, is connecting and talking to people. I'm actually got another person in my company that's part. A lot of his job is innovation, right, and what's happening and researching and talking. So it's just a lot very quickly. It's exciting times.
There comes a time when dreams become a reality, when you see your vision materialize into a true work of art. And the only way to get there is to choose a general contractor who shares that same vision and knows how to bring it to life. At Blue Wave, we aren't so big that we've forgotten where we've come from, and we aren't so small that we can't care for your projects regardless of their size. When your vision deserves safety, perfection, timeliness, and expertise in order to become a reality, trust Blue Wave to get it done right the first time.
As you were talking, I was thinking about two different questions that I think the audience would like to know. Go back to the fear factor. What are some of those fears, much like you were talking about with AI? I mean, there's a conversation I don't go into every day now where you've got the fear mongers on the AI side, and then you've got the other side, the entrepreneurial side, going, oh my God, I can change the world now. What are some of those high priority fears that are out there, Rami?
Yeah, I had the pleasure of meeting Peter Diamandis. If anybody doesn't know him, he has a really cool newsletter called Future Loop and Longevity. He's got multiple businesses, but he's really on the forefront of futurism, and good friends with Ray Kurzweil. But anyway, so I got to chat with him, and it's interesting, as we talk about the fear of AI and nanotechnology and robotics. On the positive side, what we believe, is that we'll be able to live longer. We'll be able to offset, certain things that nanobots could go in your body and fix organs and things like that, where, increase just overall longevity and intelligence, where, humans could reach a higher level of overall intelligence as well. So there's some great, positive things about living symbiotically, with, different levels of AI. But, without going too far down the rabbit hole, that's, obviously there's a lot of fear. I mean, you can watch any of the Terminator movies, right? Talk about the time when the machines decide to turn us off and lock us up.
Yeah, everyone talks about the Terminator effect. So, what?
Yeah, the one thing that I read is that about 5 years from now, that the AI will surpass humans in intelligence, and I think it was like 10 or 15 years from now, they'll be about 10,000 times smarter. So there is sort of that. That issue, but at least from what I do from the VR AR standpoint, I think there's the fears that I hear is privacy concerns. But if you think about it, we tend to give up our privacy for convenience, right?
We do.
We all know that our phones are trackable. We all know that there's information that's being shared. That's no secret. Facebook and all these other companies are using that data to collect information on us. So you can imagine now, if they can visually see you and track you. And then advertisers can advertise to you. And there's a really fun video I would used to show at a lot of my speaking engagements. And it would almost show this person's on a bus, and all of a sudden she's getting pinged by all this information. She's calling mom, surfing the web, but it's a constant barrage of advertisements in the grocery store. So you can imagine, the opportunities that all of a sudden you're getting bombarded right in your eyeballs. So there's that concern as well. So those are things that I hear. But again, think about it. If let's say you're out to dinner with your wife and you're walking down the street and, how do I get to that one restaurant? Boom, a hologram pops up. It's voice activated. Phones are now going to be the equivalent of a payphone, right?
Yep.
What was that?
Yep.
Our grandchildren will laugh at us, but it's all going to be voice activated. And so you have a hologram, boom, or what's the best restaurants within a block of here? All of a sudden you get a list with a map that shows you an arrow on the road, where to turn, where to go. So there's a lot of conveniences there. But of course there's, the privacy issues as well, because guess what? when I'm looking at you, JJ, we're walking down the street, I'm scanning you. Who knows, the government may know, okay, I know who everybody is because we're scanning each other, right? So definitely not a lot of privacy.
Well, think of, let's go back to another one I think is, I just got back from the UK and Ireland, and you're obviously fluent in a second language. I remember traveling to Spain 25, 30 years ago, and my Spanish sucked. And now, like with what you're doing, you don't even need to know the language. It just, there's a translator can be built into whatever you're doing. You can enjoy whatever you want. You can, or you don't even need to go to Spain. You can just, like I said, through VR and AR, you can do anything. Like I heard a deal with on Machu Picchu that their intent there is they'll probably close Machu Picchu down indefinitely and just do it all AR and VR tours of Machu Picchu in the future to preserve the sanctity of the ruins themselves. So you can imagine the pyramids and anything that they want to preserve. Hell, I mean, who's to say that we can't even get, like I was joking earlier, that you can get the tastes and smells. When can we get all the senses of it in AR and VR? And don't laugh, because it's going to happen. It's too freaky.
It's happening.
Yeah.
It's happening. I can't speak of, I have an Indiana project that I'm hoping soon I can tell you about, but very similar to that. We're taking you someplace. It's gorgeous. We have a famous composer. We're actually putting you in this space, and it is majestic and it is incredible. And it's going to be out on the Meta Store for download here soon. But as soon as I can announce it, I will. But it is very similar to what you're talking about, taking you to somewhere completely visceral. And look, I would say if you can hear it, taste it, touch it, smell it, how does your mind not know it's real? Right. I mean, we're already, haptic gloves are already here. They've been out for a while, right? I can touch and pick up objects. We're already doing sound. We do a ton of work in spatial audio. So think ambisonic sound for VR. I've already talked to you about, smells. I've seen stuff they're working on taste. If I'm eating a, turkey dinner, that I actually have a taste, in my mouth of turkey, right? So I can help you with dieting. So there's already these advancements are here. And again, some say we might be in a VR world right now. We don't even know.
True. True. Hey, so the other thing I wanted to ask you then is again, you can be a fear monger of this, or you can figure out how to utilize this to better yourself. What are the opportunities in your space? When I say your space, think of the when I say kids, because I'm an old fart, but the kids in the younger generation and those college students or even high school, what kind of opportunities can they go in for a career in what you're doing in those, like, what I'm saying? Like tee up some ideas of what, I mean, we have all these gaming gurus that, there's parents out there saying, no, don't game. And there's other ones going game up, because that is the world we live in now. What insights can you offer to either the kids or the parents out there that are listening and watching this going, hey, there is a future here. And what does that look like, Rami?
It's limitless. And actually, I just had this conversation with my 17-year-old the other day. He's on summer break and he's upstairs playing on his, playing video games. And I was like, listen, you're just playing games. So unless you're, why don't you start building in Unreal or Unity, right? Start learning how to code in some of these games that you love, right? Or learn esports and, start competing. Because back when I was a kid, it was like, you're just wasting your brain playing video games. No, like now there's an actual usage for it. And I'll tell you some of the ones that are out there. So right now, like I was mentioning, we're doing a lot in education. So we just got a really incredible write-up from the Phoenix Business Journal that just went out on Saturday. We worked with Gila River Resorts and Casinos and took all of their training and onboarding and put it into VR. So I can put you in all the different casinos. You can hear from the CEO and the executives. You can go be courtside on the Suns. You can go back, in the locker room of the Cardinals. And I can take you all these places, in under an hour, that imagine trying to bust 1,000 people to do this over a couple months when you're trying to hire. So we're doing that right now in these full immersive experiences. And like I mentioned with Taser, the other thing too, I just got the phone with this morning was a major university was looking to take some of their medical program, put it into VR. So think about, being able to do some of these, practice surgeries or, how to take someone's blood pressure and do all those things, in VR. My wife is in cardiology, and I was doing some research on doctors being able to practice, think about on baby hearts in VR. Mm-hmm. And it actually increased their success rate by 99% because they're able to make mistakes in VR. No one's going to be hurt, and then they can actually do it. So, the sky's the limit. Again, travel, education, real estate, business, obviously, what we're doing now. So there's just a ton of opportunities in it. So yeah, it's the mom and dads out there saying, "Hey kids, you're wasting your brain."
No,
There is a light, there is an opportunity. The world is different now. This is how we make our living, and it's been awesome. So
that's pretty. It's uplifting and cool because it just the speed of change is so different now, Rami. That you can either embrace it or like I said, be feared of it. And I always say that I remember when was it? Just a couple years ago when we were first talking about Web 3.0 and DAOs and Metaverse, like you said, instead of immersive. And I was an outlier as a 50-year-old going, "Oh, this is cool." They're like, "What are you talking about?" And now this is like a whole, like you said, it's no longer like this. It's going like this. Yeah, it's exciting times. Shoot, I was going to ask you something else, but I can't remember what it was. Oh, going back to I'd like your insight because a lot of the audience here is strictly related to architecture, engineering, construction, development, commercial real estate. We've given some examples of how you were helping on. I consider it more the marketing and the sales side. But what have you seen, or what have people engaged with you in on more of the technical, tangible side? Can you give some testimonials of without breaking any NDAs or anything of things you've been exposed to or working on?
When you mean like technical side, as far as like for investors, or I guess would
No, more working with think about more like architects, engineers, construction related technologies that are looking at you as a way to overcome either an impediment or something. Are there examples? I guess I'm teeing you up to kind of toot your own horn here a little bit.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, from an operational standpoint, I mean, think, looking at the HoloLens that's been out, but also Vision that's coming out, to be able to, from a construction standpoint, to look behind the wall and see, what's going to be in there. And you can get really granular with it, right? I mean, when I was in San Francisco, and we were able to pull apart a plane engine, right, and see inside the engine and do this all, in VR. And so, think about what, this can do now for construction, not just from, like you were saying, a marketing standpoint, but I want to get in the nuts and bolts and see the plumbing and see the electrical, before it's ever built, or I could do it in AR. That's something I think is going to save a ton of time because, hey, if you mess that up, there's a lot of, expense to have to fix that, but I can do it, right then and there. So I think that's one thing that,
boom, you did it. So what it does is, again, creates dialogue here that we can go. So let me give that example. We have a huge human capital issue in our space. We don't have enough people with all that experience. I'm one of those that last generation where we all have 25, 30 years of experience going up through the progression of construction. What you just described, I no longer need a 55-year-old superintendent with 30 some years experience to be on the most difficult jobs. Now I can take your 17-year-old son and go, "Hey, go figure out where the problems are." We did it with BIM and IPD 5-10 years ago. Now this takes that at a whole nother level where we can say, all right, here's the collision point, here's the problem, here's the maintenance issue, here's the life cycle problem of that asset. All those, we could go on and on and on. And now that 17, 18, age doesn't define what the brain can do with the data that's there and that kind of
right.
Interconnectivity, if you will, to now solve that construction problem, so that we're not all faced in trying to wrangle in the 10 people that we need 100 people to perform to. Does that make sense? So whether you
I mean,
whether you know it or not, you did a perfect job of kind of giving me an example to expand on, so that the audience understands, like, hey, don't be scared of this. Take it to however you can and apply it in your own business to succeed and offer value to your client base, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, a ton of value. I mean, just from a development standpoint, before even marketing, we're working with a developer right now where, they've got a massive development and they're like, hey, like, this is the view that we want, but we're not sure what it's going to look like when it's done. So we're actually creating that all in 3D so they can see it right before they break ground. Or maybe we got to move that wall, or that window's got to be bigger. Let's figure that all out digitally, in 3D or VR, so you can experience it and see it before you break ground and have that expense. So from a construction standpoint, I mean, it just saves countless hours and headaches for sure.
Have you seen the immersive, back to what I was talking about with the wallpaper, have you seen the immersive I know it's out there, but have you personally seen the immersive in any of the construction space to where you can say, "Oh, I love that tile," and then it immediately goes to a wholesaler, or it directly interacts with supply chain, so you can almost have a purchase order initiated in VR or AR.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many with APIs that you can connect things now, and software like, like I was saying with Thunderbird, we had to do some custom programming. We're working on another project right now, we had to do a lot of, additional programming. So we haven't personally done what you're saying, but it's very doable. I mean, if, finding a software that, supports that and connecting with the VR experience nowadays, I mean, it's just become easier and easier when clients have a certain need. That we can, connect those softwares through API, like it's very doable. So
we'll give you another example is, I work with a number of wonderful architects, engineers, and as me, the contractor, let's say an owner comes to us, they've got a vision, right? We still take the technology advancements out of the equation, right? Let's just go back to organic, how things are decided on. Mm-hmm. So, right. Think back to 2020 and and what happened afterwards when we had some huge supply chain issues, Rami. So imagine that I'm sitting there with a conventional developer and then group of architects and engineers. They're like, JJ, this is what we want the roof to be like. You, the construction guy, what can we get faster from supply chain? Can we get steel bar joists, or does it have to be like a hybrid type system? Where now, mm-hmm. in what you guys are doing, I want to be able to say, well, let's just look at it, and that directly we can look up the SKUs in real time and know the availability in the supply chain, and then even look at it, what's it worth, what's the lead times, all those kind of things. I mean, the technology is there that we should be able to make those decisions in seconds and minutes instead of days and months, right? And so that's, again, I'm trying to relay and parlay what the crazy cool things you're doing into kind of a more pragmatic, easy approach, so people aren't feared by this, but they see the potential and kind of say, oh, yes, Rami and JJ exposed me to this. Now I have that freedom, that comfort to go after these things. I hope that example resonates with you, Rami.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love when we can keep everything in one ecosystem and make it as simple as possible. So to give an example, like any of the renderings that we're doing in the VR, like we're working with specific, SKUs. And so when we get, any type of materials or, furniture or whatever, we want to know exactly, the right model number and everything is accurate. So we're in there. And if you're saying, hey, we're going to change out this, these walls or that roofing, that's something that we do now. And then, really just connecting that with a database of here's what's available. That's something that's very, we haven't done that yet, but that's something that would be very turnkey. And I love that idea. So,
yeah, well, that's your next project. We'll work on that.
More work. I like
it. So what have I not asked you? I don't really care about timing with you because this is such a unique and kind of, I wouldn't say provocative, but I think it's just such a cool frontier that you're kind of out there on. And once I met you, you and I joked that we would stay in contact because I'm goofy too, but I just want to share it and pay it forward with so many of our constituents of anything else that I'm forgetting to ask you so you can share your knowledge.
I would just say, like, we talked about the fear. Don't be afraid of the technology. I think, really embrace it. For us, I always want to be on that top of that crest of that wave, right? Because otherwise you end up getting buried by it. And what happens is, everything is happening so fast that, don't be afraid to reach out and talk to me, talk to you and go through how can I leverage some of this? And look, it's not a one size fits all. It's not like I have to use technology. Let's figure out the right approach, to however we can best, help you. But again, it's coming, whether you like it or not, right? It's happening. And so, some of the things that I saw with vision, I've been talking about for a long time, like just not needing a television anymore. Right? You're sitting there watching TV, you just pull it up and all of a sudden your TV is there. I've been, talking about not really needing to decorate, because people can come in and they're going to see your house decorated, but it's digital, So, but how we communicate, how we interact, how we live our everyday lives, it's going to continue to evolve. So don't fear it. I think really just embrace it and really think through how can I leverage this for my business? And that's what we're here to do to help people with. So.
There comes a time when dreams become a reality. when you see your vision materialize into a true work of art. And the only way to get there is to choose a general contractor who shares that same vision and knows how to bring it to life. At Blue Wave, we aren't so big that we've forgotten where we've come from, and we aren't so small that we can't care for your projects regardless of their size. When your vision deserves safety, perfection, timeliness, and expertise in order to become a reality, trust Blue Wave to get it done right the first time.
Good stuff. Hey, another thing I thought of is if anyone's interested in kind of the things we've talked about, what are some good platforms, either podcasting or whatever that's out there addressing these kind of these issues in this frontier?
Yeah, so like you said, I call myself a cool nerd, but still a nerd. I love Peter Diamandis, again, I mentioned him. So Future Loop, you can subscribe to his newsletter. He has a group called Abundance 360. So you can do virtual meetings, you can do the meetings in person, but that's a great group. And he'll bring in people like Ray Kurzweil to talk, and it's all things. So AI, VR, AR, robotics, like they're on the cutting edge, and he's got several companies. I had him went to one of his talks on longevity. How do we get to live to be 120 plus years old, right? So all the stuff they're doing with genetics. So there's just I love kind of listening to him and picking his brain. And then like I said, CES in Las Vegas happens every year. There's a ton of great vendors there. I always recommend.
For people that don't know, for people that don't know, what does that acronym stand for? CES.
Oh, you caught me.
Well,
I should know the acronym.
All right.
What's that?
No, I don't even know what it. I know what the show is, but only because I follow all you guys. But I don't even know what it stands for. But anyway, CES. What time of year is it usually?
It is in January.
January. Okay.
Consumer Electronics Show.
Yeah. There you go. Okay.
Consumer Electronics Show. But yeah, it's in January every year. It's in Vegas. But just a great show because you're going to see VR, AR, you're going to see robotics, AI, and it's stuff for like I saw one that had robots that come and clean your house, and robotic lawnmowers, and with AI, and just really cool stuff that you get to see before it hits the market. And so I love to go to that trade show just because there's so much. It's really not one of those shows it's tough to do in a day. Let me just put it that way. It's in like 4 different casinos, so it's a lot.
Hey, you're a cool nerd. I'll give you that. And you're an ASU grad, and I think it's everyone knows Michael Crow, and they announced that ASU is going to take on the whole medical deal now. So are you going to be working with them on the medical forefront in this capacity, or can't you talk openly?
I can't talk about it, but
did I do a good job of connecting the dots?
You can connect the dots.
All right.
I've had some good phone calls the last couple of days. So,
yeah, because
Michael Crow is a great guy. I've gotten to meet him. I've gotten to sit in the crow's nest and chat with him, and I've just commended him for his future way where he looks to the future looking, and how to really advance and innovate. And he's taken ASU to just the next level. He's always thinking next level with everything, and so just commend him. Really, really awesome guy. So.
Yeah, between what he and his wife have done respectively in the community, it's like wow, it's pretty profound, and ASU, right, wrong, or I've just been with a bunch of UA Wildcats recently, and I'm a Midwest guy, but I'm still impressed with ASU. Just never ceases to amaze me how they're pushing through the glass ceiling on anything related to the educational model. So kudos to them, and when you can talk about it, we'll get you back on so you can talk about all the cool things that have come to fruition. Well, hey, Rami,
deal. I love it.
Hey, I can't thank you enough for coming on today. And like I said, for those of you that are interested in anything we talked about, just like I said, if you want to look up Rami and his company, again, it's Point in Time Studios, or RAMI last name Kalla. Follow him on any social media. He's everywhere. He's always doing cool stuff. And, your kids should thank you that they got a cool nerd as a dad, right?
I'm going to tell him you said that.
Yeah. Well, and you got a wife that can save your life if you have a heart attack. So you're good.
That's true. I'm very lucky.
All right.
That's awesome.
Thanks again for being on today, Rami.